My favourite weapons in Destiny 2, including my top 25, top 10 for PvE, top 10 for PvP, and top 15 legendaries, totaling 41 weapons, some repeats. To be a favourite weapon of mine, a weapon must feel good to use and be very good against combatants or players, preferably both. Bonus points for opening a new way to play, being challenging to use effectively, and having good design. Penalty for being bugged. Or if I have pain from all the sweats who have been using it for years. Slight bias towards weapons I've had for a long time. My absolute all-time favourite weapon is this particular crafted BXR-55 Battler. Yes, my favourite weapon in Destiny 2 is a Halo gun. The Battler just feels good to shoot in every roll. Every burst is crisp yet forgiving. It can do range, but what makes the Battler special is its accurate hipfire. Yeah, I'm a hipfire kind guy. Spitting out rounds feels so smooth and easy. The sight is clean and has the anniversary feature of zooming in Halo style rather than scope to eye. The bloom is so muted, it feels way better than other pulses. And the Battler has a unique trait, blunt execution rounds, that gives it massively increased damage immediately after dealing melee damage, which includes melee abilities. In the Crucible, my favourite combination is with the Solar Hunter Proximity Explosive Knife, allowing me to lead a target with a trap before he comes around the corner, then one-burst him, which is hilariously effective. I highly value shooting only duels. This Battler knife combo is my one indulgent exception at close range. The Battler's hipfire makes fighting at that awkward, just outside melee range very doable, enough to beat probably anything except shotguns. Blunt execution rounds kind of makes this weapon an exotic, but it's counted as a legendary weapon, so you can still take an exotic with you. Even without blunt execution rounds, I think the Battler would still be my favourite weapon. It's the hip accuracy that sells me. At number 2, MIDA Multi-Tool and Nightwatch. We'll cover Nightwatch later. Now, MIDA Multi-Tool. This is the perfect scout rifle. Obviously the 100 aim resistance helps a lot with that, which makes some shots feel free, but otherwise provides fantastic consistency. The fire rate is high, but not so great as to become unwieldy. A scout rifle is not a machine gun after all. As an exotic, MIDA keeps your radar up well scoped, and gives you speed. Nothing spectacular, but in combination with MIDA's stats, makes it a workhorse. Go here, kill this, repeat. The multi-tool will get it done. Just pop in heads all day, or vex spots. Indeed, that moment of one shot to the belly, and sweeping round to the next goblin while the glass smash sound plays, that might be my favourite thing to do in Destiny. In PvP it's a 4-tap, hard to do at close range, but scouts are long range. For that, MIDA's speed bonus helps you control distance more, and the radar helps you detect incoming flankers, so you don't have to fight at close range. Outmaneuvering a shotgun rusher is always satisfying. Oh yeah, and MIDA Multi-Tool counters snipers really well. Sounds good, it looks good, it talks good. I want MIDA in every shooter game. In position 3 is Eriana's Vow. Okay, so Vow is technically a hand cannon, but I think it's closer to a sniper rifle, or at least a heavy scout. This is a weird gun. First of all, Vow hits like a truck. The exotic quality, first glance, really rewards your accuracy with high damage, and is generous enough to knock out shields without penalising you. I love using this thing against Hive. Nothing beats entering room and scoping left to right, one-shotting all the wizards and yellow bar knights. Then swap to your kinetic to clean up the trash, while Eriana's Vow reloads itself. In PvP, Vow is a 2-tap. That's fast and ammo efficient. You gotta hit your headshots though. Thankfully, the sight highlights foes in red. I struggle with target identification, so the highlighting really helps me land my crits. Vow swap can work if you like to finish off with a different weapon. Shame to miss out on the coveted 2-tap though. I want more weapons to 2-head kill, I always have. Is that too much to ask? Anyway, Vow is rock solid, and that sound effect is perfection. At number 4 is this Quickfang. Let me set this straight. Swords are cool, and Quickfang, well, it's the coolest. It looks awesome slicing through enemies and cutting through a boss. I feel cool just running around with this thing. It's lightweight, so you move fast. And it swings fast. And you can switch targets fast. And it looks cool while you do it. Did I mention I think this thing is cool? I mean, Quickfang is no high damage heavy, nor is it work or stall. That doesn't matter. What matters is that moment when you close in on a victim and bring your blade to his body. In PvP, Quickfang is definitely not a serious option. It won't win you any matches. But I like the challenge of trying to sense a hole in my enemy's guard and charging in for a finish. I get a thrill every time I cut someone down, especially a super. But sometimes, well, often, the hit doesn't land and I just die. That sucks, a buffoonish end to an elegant dance. But even if the hit registration is awful, Quickfang will always be my favourite heavy to run with. 5. This crafted Deadman's Tail. This gun is on the heavier, slower end of scouts, but rifling isn't the main way to use it. Deadman's Tail, Exotic, is a hipfire monster, and you know I love hipfiring. You can treat the scout rifle as a close-range hand cannon and you'll do fine. More than fine, great even. As you build up stacks of Cranial Spike, the fire rate increases, so you can do even better. The design of this weapon is beautiful, and it reloads gradually, like a shotgun. And Cranial Spike makes the reload go even faster. The noise when hitting max stacks makes you feel so good. Awesome mission too, Presage. In PvP, hipfire accurately can be rather tough. However, the scout rifling makes a return, as this particular Deadman's Tail dominates at long range. That's not to say that close range is off limits. With enough practice, Deadman's Tail can put in good work in close quarters. My legendary alternative is the Guiding Sight, but you might prefer Last Right, though neither quite fulfill Deadman's Tail. Number 6. Fighting Lion. Breach-loaded grenade launchers are unique in that they are the only weapon you can shoot to kill enemies without ever seeing them. And in theory, Fighting Lion can do that better than any other grenade launcher on account of it being a primary weapon, albeit exotic. Infinite ammo helps you be more free with taking risk, which helps you both learn the ricochet positioning and distance timing and take advantage of every opening in a match. Obviously, special ammo is more available in PvE activities, so Fighting Lion is definitely more of a PvP weapon. It is plenty of fun in strikes too, but where it really shines is in the Crucible. Fighting Lion is exceptional because it opens an entirely different way of playing the game. Tagging enemies from a distance without line of sight is such an unusual way to play that opponents are often bewildered. Just look at this. Every engagement is so interesting. Fighting Lion is hard to master, but very fun. In place 7, there's crafted Whisper of the Worm. I've always loved sniping, so it's surprising that a sniper rifle is this far down the list. That might be evidence for Destiny 2's sniper rifles offering little variety, or more of a testament to how good the previous weapons are. Whisper of the Worm is just the best sniper. It's got massive range, a solid rate of fire, and deals huge damage, mostly because of being a heavy weapon. However, the exotic quality White Nail instantly reloads the magazine on 3 headshots, if you're not slow. Alone, that probably makes this the best sniper for boss damage. Add on Whispered Breathing, and you get some impressive damage against beefy targets. In PvP, Whisper is a sniper, so it depends entirely on how good at sniping you are, and not the spinny fast quickscope kind. But if you're good, then Whisper makes you great, and if you're great, Whisper makes you unstoppable. And yes, White Nail works, but I've only managed to activate it once in PvP. Also, the lore for Whisper of the Worm is epic. Number 8, The Last Word. Here my passion no longer lies in the clouds. The Last Word is an amazing gun, but I am left a bit disappointed. The ultimate gunslinging hand cannon makes you feel like a cowboy in the space western, except when it doesn't work. An exotic, The Last Word fires way faster than any other hand cannon, and is extremely accurate from the hip. In fact, it is more accurate in hipfire than when aimed. Far less recoil too. Pretty much better in every way from the hip. The damage is excellent, which means the damage per second is astronomical, but offset by the persistent need to reload. Strafing across a room, flicking the pistol about, popping heads as you go, it all feels so good. But in PvP, The Last Word falters. I always play on PC, and The Last Word, for some weird reason, feels atrocious. It feels like the bullets actively try to miss. It's so sad. I reckon it's not the gun's fault. Maybe it's latency. Or, if this gun gets no bullet curve aim assist, then surely it should also suffer no artificial inaccuracy. Yeah, that combination is my biggest frustration in Destiny 2 PvP. Tons of artificial inaccuracy, then a whole bunch of artificial reaccuracy to make up for it, causing all sorts of wacky effects. Plus the randomly changing macros giving never consistent latency, plus ability spam, color smudges all over my screen, sunsetting, erosion of casual PvP, pay to win, Nvidia's low latency. The last word would be higher in this ranking if this one issue were remedied. Also needs a catalyst. 9. Forerunner. Forerunner is another Halo gun. It's the combat evolved pistol, complete with HUD scoping, PvP 3-tapping, and even a frag grenade. Forerunner uses special ammo, as that's the only way a sidearm makes sense being this powerful. The exotic quality, full stop, makes Forerunner deal huge damage on headshots. Like seriously, it competes for highest boss damage as a sidearm. Forerunner's range is huge, scope is clean, and it features surprisingly good hipfire. And, if you're accurate with your shots and fighting the right enemy, you can even use it as a primary. In PvP, Forerunner is good. Its effectiveness really depends on you landing your headshots, which isn't quite as reliable as I'd like. Flinch is a problem. I mainly use Forerunner in PvE, and I never use the frag grenade. 10 is Sturm. What can I say, Sturm is just a really solid handgun. It's got great range, great handling, and a solid recoil pattern that always seems to lead me into a satisfying rolling motion. And it sounds great. Otherwise, Sturm doesn't really offer anything else. It doesn't need to. It's enough, being an excellent main weapon that is adaptable to a variety of engagements. And technically it synergizes well with whatever's in your energy slot, even though I never find myself actually using that exotic feature. Reticule can sometimes be hard to see. In PvP, Sturm is beautiful. If you're smart with your positioning, using cover skillfully, then you can take on 140 round per minute hand cannons. But why bother when you can just outrange them? The longer ranged 3-taps are so satisfying with the sight. And I remember my first we ran out of medals was thanks to Sturm. Looking over my old footage, I feel as though Sturm used to hit a bit more consistently, so maybe it ought to be a rank higher or two. A legendary replacement is the Steady Hand, though True Prophecy is much more available. Sturm is just better. Trailing at 11, Le Monarque. This is a historical weapon. Lemon was my favourite bow. The firepower, the colour, the splash, the personality, Lemon was so good. Then, after so many years, Bungie reframed it as a pathetic lightweight in August 23. And it felt so limp immediately after the nerf. But it's still good. I believe this is the right ranking before the nerf, maybe a couple higher. I've not used Le Monarque that much in PvE. In PvP, the exotic poison messes with people's heads. It's not quite as oppressive as it was, but still very forceful. The monstrous stats on Lemon make it feel so much more reliable than other bows. You can make your positioning and peek shooting so effective against disorganized opponents. My most defeats in a single match was thanks to Le Monarque. In fact, the footage you are seeing now is from that match, after the lightweight reframe, but before the special ammo transmat. A legendary alternative might be Under Your Skin or Imperial Needle, depending on how you model Le Monarque. Number 12. Ticuu's Divination. Look at this thing. I love this design, and I love using Ticuus. The exotic, tag and alike combination is such a unique gameplay loop. It's super effective against adds, and formidable against tanky enemies too. If you can get multiple people using Ticuu's Divination together, then it's even better, I imagine. Sadly, this is a very niche weapon. In PvP, Ticuu's is disappointing. Players are no fools, so their slow bow is extremely dependent on your best positioning and prediction. But even then, Ticuu's fails. I found the lock-on, the tracking, hit registration, and ignitions all unreliable. It's so frustrating to have to work so hard to bring an opponent into a kill shot, only for the arrow to fly away. Ticuu's would be higher with these issues fixed. Strident Whistle is your legendary alternative to Ticuu's Divination. 13. The Palindrome. I think this is the only drop of the Palindrome I've ever gotten. I created my account in December 2020, but tried some D2 on a guest machine before that. I waited 3 years for them to bring the Palindrome back and gave up. It's an amazing gun, as you can see, being my favourite legendary hand cannon. The shots feel so crisp and regular, with a recoil that kind of has that movement I like on Sturm. The sound effect is perfect. In PvP, this may well be my best plain dueling weapon. 3 taps for days. But I like to play smarter than that, and more challenging. But sooner or later I always come back, and the Palindrome waits patiently for me. 14. This Occluded Finality. Whisper of the Worm may be the best sniper rifle in the game, but it's a heavy and exotic, with only 3 shots in the magazine. Apart from Whisper, Occluded Finality is the best sniper. This gun is big and bright, full of confidence, because it hits. Got the highest zoom in the game, and still solid aim resistance. Being an aggressive frame sniper rifle, Occluded Finality is perhaps not practical in PvE. But in PvP, this thing rocks. My favourite part is the scope highlighting. Foes sighted in the blue circle are painted with a bright red colour, making target identification and tracking so much easier. Long-range headshots feel so easy with Occluded Finality, though historically, maps have offered little opportunity. That's where no-scoping comes in. Yeah, kinda silly, but probably my favourite nonsense thing to do in PvP, and Occluded Finality can make it work. 15. This Eye of Sol. Can you tell I like snipers? I remember grinding Trials of Osiris for ages to get this role. Compared to Occluded Finality, Eye of Sol is faster firing, slightly shorter range, and thicker with the stats. Practically, I would say that Eye of Sol is probably better for sniping in Destiny 2, but that's mainly because the ranges where you are really pushing the limits of actually landing shots are so rare. I prefer a sniper that's, extremely rangy. But Eye of Sol is fast and reliable pretty much everywhere in PvP. Honestly, not bad hipfire either. It's a shame Bungie requires you to own the year's expansion in order to be allowed to play Trials of Osiris. So many people are missing out on Eye of Sol. Number 16. This Crafted Beloved. Yeah, 3 snipers altogether. Indeed, I reckon sniper rifles are quite lacking in diversity compared to other weapon types. This Beloved is more of a fast and fierce sniper. I've always preferred weapon play over abilities, so the surplus is nearly always maxed out, giving some truly absurd stats for a sniper. You can whip this thing around and button mash heads, and it'll deliver. Not quite as punchy as Occluded Finality, or as sweeping as Eye of Sol, but still great and potent in PvP. I rank Adored equivalently, as it's practically the same gun as Beloved, though Craftable is obviously better, and I prefer Solo. 17. This Crafted Pardon Our Dust. Another 30th anniversary weapon. I like Pardon Our Dust mainly for being a breach-loading grenade launcher I can finally make ideal. No more random rolling between low blast radius or high velocity. Just craft this and use it to supplement, any primary energy in the game. Pardon Our Dust might be my most used weapon. It's by far my highest level crafted weapon. A pocket grenade on demand is useful in nearly every situation. Cleaning up grouped ads, taking a bite out of a major, tickling a boss, and that's before considering disorienting grenades. But my favourite is PvP. Just like Fighting Lion, the bounces and corner tags are peak gameplay. I'm sure you've already noticed I use Pardon Our Dust to supplement Battler, the Monarque, whatever. At one time I built into spike grenades on this thing for the one-shots, including on bouncers, which is real mean. But rather than high risk, high reward, I prefer making more reliable plays, hence the proximity grenades on Pardon Our Dust. Position 18. Wishender. Before you say it, yes, this bow is known for its exotic wall hacks. But that's not why I like it. Wishender is the hardest hitting bow in the game, well, except for in Leviathans. The damage is mighty, but not in a dumb shotgun way, more of a sniping way. Indeed, Wishender is arguably the best primary sniper in the game, with fantastic alpha damage and huge range. I love the piercing. I want piercing on all my bows, man. Better hipfire too. Funny that, I wish created by Wishender. Lining up ads is fun, but PvP is where it's at. Wishender's awkwardness can be a challenge, and the true sight isn't timely enough to rely on, so good old-fashioned positioning and cover use determine my efficacy, as with all bows. I guess Wishender is more bow than most bows in many ways. Needs a catalyst. 19. Skyburner's Oath. You know I like scouts. This is a 150 round per minute, but still a 3-tap in Crucible. Yeah, it's a menace in PvP, though I find explosive payload weapons rather unreliable, as if the explosive part of the projectile is separate and just a tad slower. However, as a scout is not how I mostly use Skyburner's Oath. Especially in PvP, I use Skyburner as, well, a ground burner. Actually more like half and half. The exotic hipfire is generous in its area of effect, allowing you to tag enemies as you come round a corner, and finish them off if they hide behind insufficient cover. Also, the intrinsic phalanx pierce on Skyburner's Oath is fun. 20. Izanagi's Burden. As a sniper rifle, Izanagi's Burden is good. It's nothing special, certainly not in competition with my favourite snipers, but it won't let you down either. What's attractive about Izanagi's Burden, other than the elegant design, is the exotic quality. Load all 4 bullets into one round and let her rip. Unfortunately, the damage is not as great as I expect, seemingly every time I use it. It's a lot of risk to put into one shot, and the reload is always super slow. Still, body shotting in PvP is always fun, and you can get some hilarious damage numbers on headshots. My legendary alternative is Eye of Soul, but basically any sniper will do. Or none of them if the whole point is the single shot damage on Izanagi's Burden. Number 21, Parasite. Just like Whisper of the Worm, Parasite is a creature as an exotic weapon. But where Whisper is dark and deadly, Parasite is hysterical. Whack a worm into a launcher, aim high, send it to the moon and watch that thing wiggle its flailing body as it soars through the air. Just a fun weapon to use. Oh yeah, and it does damage. A lot of damage. Let that puppy sit in your back pocket for a while to build up stacks, then whip it out and absolutely decimate one particular target. Pair with a recombination the mountaintop for bonus swap explosions. A more well-rounded legendary grenade launcher is Crime Mutiny if you need to replace your exotic but get as close as you can to fulfilling the same role. Parasite lacks a catalyst. 22. Ace of Spades. Cade's gun is perhaps the most iconic in the franchise. It looks good, sounds good, and performs well. A little too well. I love this hand cannon, and the exotic quality is surprisingly powerful, but in all my time in PvP, Ace just keeps coming back to spank me. It's a 140 RPM with the 120's range, and if you practice a lot, then Ace of Spades just never misses. I would regard this more highly if I wasn't sick of seeing it on my death screen. Otherwise, Ace of Spades is solid in PvE because of the traits. If you can get your hands on a rangy Midnight Coup with Firefly, that's the closest a legendary is going to get to Ace of Spades. 23. Leviathan's Breath. Aha, here it is, Hawkeye's Great Bow. I like bows, and I like slow heavy hitters. And Leviathan's Breath is the heaviest. This exotic features ridiculous wind-up time, for ridiculous damage. It was rather poor before its buff, whenever that was. That gave it a massive AoE aftershock. Now it can clear out adds, erase mages, and bomb bosses. And in PvP, Leviathan's Breath kills on body shots. Admittedly, the draw time is tough to work around, but I like the challenge, and the payoff is worth. 24. The Lament. What happens when you combine every anime sword hero and a Space Marine chainsword? You get the Lament. A solo sword with great design and fantastic damage. Needs a catalyst. The revved attacks have a little AoE as well. But mostly, I think this exotic speaks for itself, and it says. Finally, number 25 of my top 25, Prometheus Lens. Before I knew trace rifles existed, I always imagined a laser weapon, boasting perfect accuracy, unlimited range, and infinite rate of fire. Of course, it couldn't quite pan out that way, but Prometheus Lens is a very acceptable stand-in. Lasering enemies just feels good. Prometheus Lens rewards you for being accurate and efficient by increasing damage just for continuing fire. Also, did somebody call for an exterminator? Because this thing flamethrowers ads. In PvP, you're gonna really feel your latency, unfortunately. Retrace Path is your legendary alternative to Prometheus Lens. Now, my selection for top 10 weapons against combatants. These are my favourites for success in challenging PvE. First is Malfeasance. I must say that I am not a fan of 180 RPMs. But Malfeasance is an exception because it hits so solidly and handles so well. For most activities, you can throw Malfeasance on, hold down the trigger, and ride the damage dealing. Of course, this is mostly thanks to its exotic quality, where 5 hits is enough to eat a victim from the inside out. The damage is substantial. Add that to Malfeasance's rate of fire and huge magazine, and you get damage that competes with special weapons, for the price of a primary, and far easier to use. Also, it looks cool. No legendary 180 is going to compare with Malfeasance, not until Bungie adds a 180 with kinetic tremors, perhaps when they make 7th Seraph Officer Revolver craftable, like they said they would ages ago. Number 2, Eriana's Vow. We actually covered this already as top 25, position 3. I'm not going to repeat myself, so you'll have to go back if you skipped it. Vow's great against mages. 3. Ticuu's Divination. Again, we covered this already. 4. Ace of Spades. Covered already. 5. Forerunner. Covered already. 6. Whisper of the Worm. Covered already. At number 7 is Sunshot. I know I've said I'm not a fan of explosive payload, and Sunshot's reload does feel rather slow. But all that is quite outweighed by Sunshot's exotic quality of chain reacting indefinitely. Literally pop one ad and watch a string of several or even dozens light up, like that one spot on Nessus. Sunshot is a trash murdering machine, and the 150 RPM is a nice bonus. But it does struggle on tougher targets. If only Sunshot were a scout rifle. Number 8, Polaris Lance. This solo scout has the range to tickle enemies to death from total safety. The catalyst gives it dragonfly so you can clean up ads nice and quickly. But obviously the main appeal of Polaris Lance is the exotic quality of immediately refunding a headshot. You don't even need a kill, just keep landing your crits, and you can keep going forever. As nice as this is, it's just a reload, which is hardly a problem to do. Besides, more practically, fighting in the field gets messy, with ads doing wonky animations, enemies with no crit spots, and shields. Plus, Dragonfly can steal away your headshots. That's Polaris Lance. 9. This crafted Brigand's Law. Seasonal weapons might not be easy to acquire for most, but it's worth the wait for Xur's inventory rotation, and the 5 deep sight harmonizers. Yes, this is my pick for the best non-exotic ad-clear weapon in the game. Sidearms already deal solid DPS, and Jolt rewards you for playing normally with free extra kills, and even extra damage against tougher enemies. Brigand's Law has a nice rat-a-tat-tat to it, and plentiful stats in the range you would normally be using it in. If only sidearms had longer range, then Brigand's Law would dominate. Finally, number 10, Skyburner's Oath. I've covered this weapon already. My selection for top 10 weapons against players. These are my favourites for success in PvP. In first place is Vigilance Wing. This is a pulse that feels like it gets all the benefits of auto rifles. At 5 shots per burst, you can 2-burst Guardians if you land all your crits. But usually I find myself 3-bursting, and that's enough. Vigilance Wing is so easy to use, and so generous with hits, it makes reliably winning duels simple, getting tags easy, and can even be used for suppressive fire. I'm not really a sweaty player, but aiming with this gun is clearly easier than aiming with other guns, and that's an advantage you'll want to capitalize on if you must win. I don't like it that way, but this is Destiny. I nearly forgot Vigilant Wing's exotic quality, which, well, helps sometimes, I guess. Number 2. This crafted BXR Battler. Well, technically I should say a slightly different Battler with more sensible traits. But I'm not that sweaty, so I'll say I covered this already. 3. This the Palindrome. We've covered this already. 4. This crafted Pardon Our Dust. Covered already. At number 5 is Heir Apparent. This gun is just unfair. grab heavy, spin up, then suddenly you're this unstoppable force just sweeping around the map. The exotic quality is obviously doing all the lifting here. A free over shield is always nice, but this shield feels so much beefier than normal, and is helped by the fact that anyone shooting at you won't have long to live when you're carrying this much firepower. I love hip firing, and hip fire on Heir Apparent is so generous and so long ranged. And it's so ammo efficient with just 4 headshots, which takes no time at all. Make sure to conserve your ammo. Honestly, this thing is so overpowered that I almost always get 5 or 6 kills with it. And if I die, it's because I held the W key without thinking, because I was leaning into the fantasy of being an 80s action hero too much. I think Heir Apparent was my exotic weapon for my flawless run of Trials of Osiris. Its only drawback, that I can think of, is expending your only exotic weapon on a heavy that you might not even get to use all match. Maybe some people don't like the admittedly restrictive spin-up on Heir Apparent. Number 6. Cloudstrike. You knew this was coming. This is the Crucible Sniper, the Menace, the Tormentor. Everywhere you go, you'll see this thing. If not in the hands of your enemies, then haunting you at every capture point. I hate this gun for that exact reason. But there's no denying that it's the best at what it does, which is giving you free extra kills while sniping. Snipers are already the choice of the powerful, because maximum alpha damage prevents your opponent from fighting back. Cloudstrike is a rapid fire frame, whereas I prefer heavier snipers, for the 2 body I guess. But you can't argue with the results, and Cloudstrike delivers, with huge handling, accurate sniping, and the incomparable multi-kills. Position 7. This Hailing Confusion. This pulse is a solid all-rounder. I feel like pulse rifles have rather high aim assist, and I like the highlight scope, so Hailing Confusion fits just right for me. Spot targets, plink on heads, it doesn't have to be complicated. Also, this is the main weapon I used the one time I ever went flawless in Trials of Osiris, though not this exact role. I think it had Sideways Demolitionist. Hailing Confusion is nice. Eight. Ace of Spades. We covered this already. 9. MIDA Multi-Tool. Covered already. Finally, number 10. Le Monarque. We covered this already. I used to rank it way higher before the nerf. Now we move on to my top 15 legendary weapons. Exotics have had their time to shine. Mainly, I view these legendaries in a Crucible perspective, since that's where the endlessly new and interesting gameplay lies. At number 1 is BXR-55 Battler. I mean, obviously. We covered this already. At number 2, this Nightwatch. I hold this in the same high regard as MIDA Multi-Tool, maybe a tad lower. And I've probably got more kills on MIDA than this. I've just had to dismantle my exotic weapons in the past for vault space. But yeah, Nightwatch is nearly as good as MIDA Multi-Tool, at fast-firing lightweight scale. Previously I leaned into stability a bit more on Nightwatch, to compensate for the awkward recoil direction, until I got this perfect beauty. Now it's push range all the way, cause lightweight anything always struggles with damage drop-off, another gamey feature I never really liked. But mostly I use Nightwatch in PvE, where the intensity isn't punishing, and the ranges aren't concrete. Just my casual everyday workhorse for blinking targets at mid-range, or even popping ads up close. It's by no means magic. Certainly not the best tool for the job, but I really like it. Shooting some Hive acolytes with Nightwatch is what Destiny is to me. Moving fast and flinging the odd throwing knife gets that space cowboy feel, and scouts are my favourite primary. Nightwatch is adaptable, I suppose any weapon is when you're playing casual strikes. Nightwatch is reliable, and I think Nightwatch is the first legendary weapon I got, handed straight to me by Shorhan in the Cosmodrome. Of course, I played some before I created this account, but I don't remember much of that. I really enjoyed the Vex strikes like Pyramidion and used scouts for them. In fact, I think Nightwatch is my most used weapon ever, except perhaps the Halo 3 battle rifle. Still, I will be sad to leave Nightwatch behind. 3. Quickfang. We covered this already. 4. Occluded Finality. Covered already. 5. Eye of Soul. Covered already. 6. Beloved, Adored. Covered already. 7. The Palindrome. Covered already. 8. Pardon Our Dust. Covered already. At number 9, this Arsenic Bite-4b. I don't think anybody expected this. Even I'm not sure why exactly I like this bow so much. Arsenic Bite is a lightweight bow. I must say right now that I've discounted the relatively recent bow nerf for all these weapon evaluations. Yeah, the March 5th update 7.3.5 was totally unfair to bow users, obliterated all meaningful Crucible archery, and turned lightweight to 140 bow swapping into not even compound 120 headshots being a kill. So, until very recently, lightweight bows have always been a worse version of compound bows, unless you are using bows aggressively at the absolute minimum time to kill, which is an unusual and extremely challenging way to play. And I guess that's why Arsenic Bite is such a favourite of mine. Before the dark days of skill-based matchmaking in casual game modes, the utter stupidity, I used to run Arsenic Bite in Crucible all the time, and the challenge of it was satisfying, and swapping to Sturm was endless fun. Of course, I must mention that Arsenic Bite provides that coveted enemy highlighting, but the scope as you can see is tiny. There's something else about Arsenic Bite. I've compared the stats and the feel of this lightweight to pretty much every lightweight bow I've ever gotten my hands on. It feels like there's some kind of aim assist or accuracy it's got over other bows, but it's not visible in the stats. Certainly I was disappointed by Tyranny of Heaven, which looked on paper to become my favourite lightweight bow, until I crafted it and found that, inexplicably, fiberglass arrow shaft was not an option. And yes, weirdly, that extra 5 accuracy does make all the difference, at least versus Arsenic Bite. The difference between your headshots reliably landing at mid-range versus missing too often to be sustainable. So much for primary ammo snipers. I love Arsenic Bite, and I will always remember the first we ran out of medals I got with it, even though it'll never be as good as it was. Number 10. This 7th Seraph SI2. It's kind of odd I haven't mentioned this so far. All the 7th Seraph weapons are good, but SI2 is dear to me. Throughout all the time, shotguns have been better, so always. The 7th Seraph sidearm has been there for me, shutting down shotgun rushes and sending the apes back to their barbaric times. SSSI2 has the best feeling short-range rapid-fire of any sidearm, maybe of any weapon in the game. The bolts fired out just feel so potent, deadlier than bullets. They sound punchy, with a pinpoint crispiness that suggests they can pierce the impudence of any who dare to presume they can shotgun you. I feel like I can make every shot count on this gun, which never happens at this rate of fire. 7th Seraph SI2 is a great backup to have comfortably at your hip. Previously, I had drop mag on one of these, which was a perfect bonus to everything SI2 did, but unfortunately I dismantled it after the update that made drop mag reduce magazine size. 7th Seraph SI2 is the other weapon I went flawless with that one time ever. Place 11. This very particular Strident Whistle. I have spent a shameful amount of time grinding for a perfect roll of this weapon, and all those focused vanguard engrams. This is the bow, the plain, the simple, it just works archer's weapon in Destiny 2. I know Strident Whistle can roll with much more interesting traits, and trust me, I have the rolls. Like a dozen different versions of Strident Whistle taking up space in my vault. At one time it was 40. But I'm not really interested in those rolls. I'm not looking for a bow that can do funky things, or make those rare sprees marginally faster or longer. I just want a tool I can rely on. I just want a 2-headshot primary weapon, at any range. And this is it. This exact roll is that weapon, not 5 points of accuracy or draw time to the left or right. But I've had to sacrifice so much to make that happen. The time alone has been astronomical, and in that meanwhile, bows have become impractical in PvP. It's sad and frustrating, and not a negligible factor as to why I've quit Destiny 2. Anyway, that's not this bow's fault. Maybe it would be ranked higher if it existed many years ago. Unfortunately, Strident Whistle has been overshadowed during its lifetime by Destiny's downfall. Number 12. This Twilight Oath. I've liked Twilight Oath for a long time. One of my oldest weapons is a Twilight Oath from back when it could roll hipfire grip. Yes, that is my best no-scoping rifle. Legitimately, no-scope sniping is a thing in Destiny if you can pull it off. Well, I guess it was, before Bungie took hipfire grip off all the snipers, and the PvP population evaporated, leaving only the grubbiest, horribliest people. Anyway, this Twilight Oath is a no surprises, well-performing sniper role. It's insanely fast to scope, and the crosshair is uniquely good. Maybe I should have used this guy more in all my time sniping, and appreciated it. But alas, this particular role of Twilight Oath only greeted me a few weeks ago. I guess I've had my fill in the no-scoping department, and that's mainly why Twilight Oath is a favourite. 13. No turning back. I know I've already said a lot for a reliable plain bow, but I don't actually use no turning back for that. I mean, it's alright for that, but the draw time is obviously a hindrance. No, I pretty much solely use no turning back for pairing with Fighting Lion. The Turning Lion is a combo I've employed many a time on Void Hunter for invisibility and reload on dodge, plus Quickfang. Ah man, the uniqueness of this build is so good. Just check this out, it's unlike any kind of gameplay anywhere else. No turning back perfectly supplements Fighting Lion, especially before Bungie stopped compound buddy shot melee kills. But Quickfang's got you for that. Turning Lion is such a unique way to play a shooter game, just dripping with rewarding challenge. The absolute finesse and raw skill demonstrated in using this thing to dominate, it's a rush. I mean, I'm no pro gamer, certainly never got a wee run out of medals with this loadout. But I respect any guy who tries it. Bungie needs to bring back no turning back. Number 14. This Rose. A lightweight hand cannon. I'm sold. You don't even have to tell me the price. Well, I've never raided before in all my years of Destiny. Thankfully, this isn't a raid gun. Looking at you, Fatebringer. I did my rounds of competitive playlist sometime before Bungie pushed me out with the phone link requirement. And I got this roll of Rose, with some farming. I couldn't really ask for more. I know most people go slide shot explosive payload, but you know I find explosive payload unreliable, curse lag. And I was never a fan of the whole advanced movement thing. I prefer a little more shooter in my shooter. So moving target opening shot it is. Rose is a stat monster, with an effective 100 aim assistance, so generous, and lightweight to boot. It was destined to become a favourite. I'm just a bit tired of hand cannons is all. The only fault of Rose is the lateness of its arrival. And, finally, 15. This crafted the other half. I'm sure you expected the other half to be ranked a bit higher. I do love this sword, obviously being a fan of Halo, and it is an effective boss-killing weapon. But the more I thought about it, the more I realised the other half doesn't technically have anything going for it over other swords, as a weapon, per se. Obviously, the main attraction of the other half is as a movement tool. Jump, swap, swing, swap. But I'm not sure it's fair to credit the other half as a favourite weapon, when all I use it for is a burst of momentum, barely a tool of attack, to be generous. Of course, I've used it in PvP with some success. I have a half-truths I've built for that. But, after using Quickfang, adaptive frame swords all feel so boring. They lack personality. The other half doesn't tell a story. Or maybe it does and I've just forgotten it, just like how I'd forget all of these weapons if not for this video. I'm not really sure. That's why the other half just ekes into this video. That's everything. All my favourite weapons in Destiny 2. Actually, only my top 41 weapons. And these are my favourite Exotic Armours. Knucklehead Radar, Celestial Nighthawk, Lucky Pants, Ophidia Spade, the Sixth Coyote. Goodbye forever, Destiny.